ABG Interpretation. There's a total of 3 parts of this I will do, but after today, there'll be nothing new to add. Okay, so after today, when it comes to ABG Interpretation, there'll be nothing new to add. Only thing we'll be doing from this point until we test is just hammering at home. Okay, so there's going to be some new stuff today, but after today, there'll be nothing new to add to the ABG Interpretation. All right, so just a quick summary about the respiratory system of the ABG. What blood gas value are we focusing on to determine whether it's a respiratory issue or not? The CO2. Okay, respiratory component is the CO2. Now, whether the CO2 goes up or goes down will then affect our blood pH. So if the patient was to hyperventilate, which means I'm huffing and puffing, what's happening to my CO2? It's going down. What effect will that have on my pH? My pH will go up, and what's that word? Causing an alkalosis. So if my CO2 goes down because I'm hyperventilating, my pH is going to go up, causing an alkalosis. The exact opposite. If I hypoventilate, so now I'm not breathing very often, only once, twice, 3 times in a minute, my CO2 starts to rise. What happens with my blood pH? It will begin to fall and causing my blood pH to be what? What's that word? Acidic or acidosis. So my CO2 changes, my blood pH can change. And if that happens, it tends to happen very quickly. Because right now, you and I can change our breathing pattern on command and affect our CO2, which in turn affects our pH. So things happen within minutes, even seconds for that matter, but within minutes, I can significantly alter my CO2, which can significantly alter my blood pH. Now the other system, so that's a respiratory system, which is the CO2. What's the other system? The metabolic system. Now what blood gas value am I looking at for bicarbonate? HCO3, the bicarbonate. Again, this is the renal system. The renal system is the kidneys. And so my kidneys that can produce or not produce bicarbonate, that bicarb can affect my blood pH. For example, if my bicarbonate levels increase, again, remember bicarb is a buffer or a base. If my bicarb increases, what happens to my pH? It also increases, causing an alkalosis. Whereas my bicarb, if my bicarb goes down, my blood pH then will go down. We're going to do the sound effects when you move on. When is the new class? When my bicarb goes down, my blood pH goes down, causing an acidosis. So bicarb and pH move together, whereas CO2 and pH move opposite from each other. Now, if my bicarb system is going to cause issues or correct issues for that matter, it doesn't happen like the CO2, changing the pH within minutes. It takes time for the bicarb to change the pH. Could take many hours, maybe even a couple of days before it can make necessary changes to affect the pH. So that's important to recognize too. Takes the bicarb, the metabolic system, time to alter the pH, whereas the CO2 can alter the pH very, very quickly. All right, going back again, always start with the normals. Like I said last week, especially here in the beginning, you guys beginning to interpret ABGs, I would always say jot down your normals first. That way they're at least in front of you. Because trust me, after you interpret a few blood gases, you may be good with the first one or first 2, but the longer you keep staring at them, sometimes we get them a little backwards, or it's easy to get confused. But if you have the numbers right there in front of you, this will prevent you from getting confused. You can always reset and restart if you're trying to interpret something by going back to what's normal. Now also, this is kind of what I drew over here the other day. This is what the pH, CO2, and bicarb look like if they're normal. What would have to happen for them to be acidic or cause an acidosis versus what they would have to look like to cause an alkalosis? Again, pH is simply looking at the acid-base status, acidosis or alkalosis, or normal for that matter, whereas the CO2 is the respiratory component and the bicarb is the metabolic component. This picture, this image, is on the slideshow. It is in Canvas, and just so I didn't have to write it on the board, I did make you your own copy. Except it's black and white, it's not on a pretty color copy like on the screen.
Not to take the test.
Yeah, I wish I could say, here, during the test, I'll let you hold this. No, I'm not going to do that. But you're welcome. But if you can commit it to memory, then you'll be good to go come test time. I need a second projector in here so I could have just left that image up. All right, so looking back at blood gas interpretation, so if this is our blood gas right now, and again, just like the other day, I left out the PO2 part because that's the easy part. Either they're hypoxemic or they're not hypoxemic, or if they are hypoxemic, they're mild, moderate, or severe. That's the easy part. The acid-base part, that's the more complex or more complicated part of this. So if I look at the blood pH, what am I going to say about the blood pH? Is that normal? No. Is that acidosis or alkalosis? Acidosis. That's an acidosis. So the pH is acidotic. The CO2 is 49. That's obviously increased, but that would cause an acidosis. The bicarb is 24. That's normal. And so if I interpret this, what do I interpret this to be?
Respiratory acidosis.
It's an acidosis caused by the respiratory system. So yes, a respiratory acidosis. I don't remember if I posted these on. Okay, I did put a few of these in here. Okay, so respiratory acidosis. Everybody comfortable with that one? That was from the other day. The next, now the pH is 748. That's above normal, which would cause a alkalosis. The CO2 was less than normal. That would cause an alkalosis, and the bicarb is 24, still normal. So this interpretation would be respiratory alkalosis. Just doing a quick review of what we covered the other day. I got a few of them. Here the pH is 723. Less than normal, so that means acidosis. The CO2 is 36. That's normal. The bicarb is 15, less than normal. That would cause an acidosis. So how would you interpret this? Metabolic acidosis. Right, metabolic acidosis. Sounds like you guys starting to make sense a little bit. Okay. That's right when I know it's time to, okay, let me throw in the tricky ones. Let me throw in the errors, right? Let me just get you feeling good about yourself for just a minute, just to suddenly take it away. All right, I wouldn't do that to you. Yeah. All right, so pH is here is 752. That's above normal, so that would cause a alkalosis. The CO2 is 39. Normal. The bicarb is 44. That would cause an alkalosis. So if you interpret this, you would call this a what? Metabolic alkalosis. All right, metabolic alkalosis. Is everybody okay with calling this one a metabolic alkalosis? All right. So let's take this blood gas in particular. So when I'm looking at this alkalotic pH, and my question is always to say, okay, well, which system? Is it the respiratory system or metabolic system causing it? We said it was a metabolic problem, so this is the cause, this is the effect. All right, the bicarb's elevated, that's causing the pH to go up. CO2 isn't contributing to the problem. It's not making things worse, it's not making things better. Right? It's just there, it's normal where it normally is supposed to be. But during compensation, okay, so now we're going to talk about and add and introduce compensation to this. If we've identified what is the problem, and that's step number one, find out what the problem is first. In this case, the problem is the bicarb. The metabolic system's causing this pH to be the way it is. So during compensation, the other system, in this example, the CO2. That's the other system. Is the other system doing anything to help or to correct that blood pH? Right now I'm going to say no, it's not, because it's normal. Okay? So once you determine which system's causing the problem, again, in this example, it's the metabolic system, the bicarb, then I look back, once I determine that's number one, that's the issue, look at the other system and see if the other system's doing anything to try to correct that blood pH. And so right now in this example, it's not, because the CO2 is normal. But if it was going to compensate, okay, so forget that it's 39 right now. If the CO2 was going to compensate for this, and what would you call this again? Acidosis or alkalosis? Alkalosis. What would the CO2 have to try to create to fix this? Would it want to create an additional alkalosis? No, because that's only going to drive the pH higher. It's going to want to try to bring the pH down, okay, because it's not normal, it's too high. What would the CO2 have to do to try to bring the pH down?
45.
It would have to go higher than 45. So it would have to increase if it was going to compensate for this original problem. Okay, again, metabolic alkalosis. It's gonna have to go up if it's gonna do anything to try to compensate. When I say the arrow's up, means it's gonna go have to be higher than 45, the high end of normal. Right? So let's say it was 46. Okay, it's trying to compensate. It's trying to fix it if it was 46. Let's take this example. So I didn't even give you the bicarb here, so let's just disregard that. If that's all I know, how would you interpret that blood gas? Respiratory acidosis, right? Respiratory acidosis. CO2's elevated, causing the pH to be down. Respiratory acidosis. What would this system try to do to try to compensate for this acidotic pH? It would want to try to create an alkalosis because it's going to want to try to raise the pH. And so what would happen to the bicarb? It would have to go up. It would have to increase. Okay? And to what number? Right now, it should be something higher than 26. Because if it's 26, it's normal. The second it hits 27, now it's trying to correct. Now it's trying to help. And so when we start talking with interpretation, we start talking about compensation. Is the blood gas partially compensated or is it fully compensated? Or maybe even we can even use the term uncompensated, which we haven't used just yet. What about in this example? So right now, I'm going to say the pH is 7.52. It's elevated. The bicarb is 46. That's elevated. That would be a metabolic alkalosis, right? How would the CO2, if it was going to try to compensate, going to try to correct its pH, how would the CO2 have to go? Up or down? If it goes up, it would cause an acid, bringing this down. If you said go down, it would actually make this worse, and it would make that pH go even higher. So yes, that would have to increase. And again, increase to what? Right now, something higher than 45. Okay, something higher than 45. The high end of normal. All right, here's my blood gas. All right, I'll leave that there for a second. Let you guys look. Catch up myself up and see where I am. Okay. Okay. So, can I raise the screen? Am I gonna bug anybody? You know me. 20 minutes later. Okay. So just like the other day when I was interpreting, right? And I'm going to go and I'm going to write next to these numbers. Well, what is it? So here the pH is 7.29. What am I going to write next to that? Yes, it's low, but what does that mean? Acidosis. CO2 is 62. What would that cause? Acidosis. The bicarb is 30. What would that cause? An alkalosis. And so this is where I hate using arrows. So I'm not using arrows here because then we really get confused. You know, is this up, this down? And we end up having to interpret arrows. So when I look at this blood gas, again, can everybody agree the pH is acidotic? Okay, so now the question is, well, what's causing it? The respiratory component or the metabolic component? Clearly it's the respiratory component, cause and effect. So this is a respiratory acidosis, but is the other system trying to compensate? Meaning, is it trying to take the pH the opposite direction from what it is?
Yes.
Yes, it is. And so it's a respiratory acidosis, but how would you interpret compensation here? I would say this is a partially compensated respiratory acidosis. And I'm using the word partially compensated. I will use the word fully compensated once the pH gets back into the normal range. But right now it's not in the normal range. Still causing an acidosis. And what's causing this acidosis? It's this high CO2, the respiratory component. But the other system, in this example, the other system is the metabolic system, is trying to compensate. Trying to compensate. So I would call this a partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Well, we got several of them. Like I said, after today, nothing new to add other than practice, practice, practice looking at these things. Okay, everybody okay with this?
I thought you said if you had different readings that it was an error.
I didn't say that. If you have both systems trying to say one thing and the pH isn't,
Okay,
then
so
that's
if
an error.
So if the bottom two, the Paco and
Bicarb.
yeah, are the same, but the pH is different, then that would be an error?
Then that could be an error, sure, sure. Right, but right now, what's the pH? Acid. What's causing it to be an acid? The CO2. So it's a respiratory acidosis. Is the other
I'm gonna
system?
go along for a minute.
It's okay. We'll do several. We'll do several. Like I said, it takes a little bit to see these things.
I was gonna say, I had to look up the same thing from like our previous slides because I got confused too, but I made a note that said it's not possible for our two systems to show acidosis or alkalosis, but our pH is going to show like the opposite of what it is.
All right.
Like, so.
And let's practice through a few more. We'll get there. It just takes time.
You got enough time.
All right, let's look at the next one. This one, the pH is 713. CO2 is 18. The bicarb is 15. So how would you interpret this pH? It's 713. That's an acidosis. The CO2 is 18. That's very low. That would cause an alkalosis. And the bicarb is 15. That's low, which would cause an acidosis. And so, looking back at the pH is saying acid. Which system's causing the acid? Metabolic. So right now I know this is a metabolic acidosis, step number 1, but is the other system, in this case the CO2, is the other system trying to compensate, trying to fix?
Yes.
Because it's trying to take the pH in the other direction, yes, it is trying to compensate. And so how would I interpret this one? Yes, and start with the first part. It's a metabolic acidosis, partially compensated metabolic acidosis. I don't think I have any errors in today's talk, but I'll give you some errors here at the end. I'll just write some up on the board just so you can kind of see the difference again. All right, so this is a partially compensated metabolic acidosis. Again, it's the bicarb that's causing the pH to be acidotic. The other system in this example, the CO2, is trying to compensate. It is trying to fix. Hasn't fixed it yet, still has a long way to go, but it's trying to fix it. Now, if we were to see this blood gas on this patient over time, if every 30 minutes, every hour, we're sticking them for another blood gas and seeing how these numbers change, again, this is going down to try to bring this pH up. It will continue to try to keep going down to continue to try to keep bringing this pH up. It will try. It might not be able to get all the way there, but that's what it's going to try to do. How would you or I have to breathe to get our CO2 to 18? How would we have to breathe to get our CO2 to 18?
Fast and shallow.
I'd have to breathe very fast, right? Rapid. And again, I'm only going to be able to do that for so long depending on my overall health. But that's how the patient would appear to us. We walk into the room, we immediately see this patient huffing and puffing, breathing really rapidly. My initial instinct goes to, I wonder what respiratory issue is wrong with this patient. And guess what? Has absolutely nothing to do with their respiratory system, because this patient's problem is their metabolic system. The reason they're breathing so fast is their body trying to compensate, trying to fix it. All right, next one. pH 7.49. CO2 is 48. The bicarb is 32. So going back, pH is 7.49. How would I interpret this one? Alkalosis. CO2 is 48. Acidosis. Bicarb is 32, elevated, alkalosis. So right now if I interpret what's causing this alkalotic pH, it's a metabolic system. So it is a metabolic alkalosis. That is there anything going on here to compensate for it? Yes. Yes, so a partially compensated metabolic alkalosis. Partially compensated metabolic alkalosis. Because what the body is trying to do to compensate, it's trying to get this pH normal. It's ultimately what the other system's trying to do is to get this pH normal. Now, it may have to be abnormal to do it, but it doesn't care. It's trying to get the pH to normal. Compared to the previous one that was only, 713, we're a lot closer to normal here, but we're still not there yet. All right, let's take a look at this one. All right, in this example, the pH is 738. That's normal. CO2 is 65, higher than normal. That would cause an acidosis. And the bicarb is 40, higher than normal, which would cause a alkalosis. So when you see something like this, before you start screaming error, go back and look at the pH. Yes, it is normal, but if you think about it like a scale, which side of normal is it? Is it more on the alkalotic side of normal, or is it more on the acidotic side of normal? All right, so it's more on the acidotic side. If normal pH is supposed to be 7.40 on the dot, anything less than could be considered more on the acidotic side. Anything greater than could be considered more on the alkalotic side. So now I interpret, notice I put normal here and I left it alone. I didn't try to read anything into it until I knew I had to look a little bit further. Once I have one system saying one thing, the other system saying the opposite, I go back and look at my pH and I ask, well, which side of normal is it? And what did we agree? It's on the acid side of normal. So I'm going to write acid here in parentheses next to it. I'm still leaving the word normal there, or the initial N for normal there, but I'm just going to write the word acid off to the side. So when I interpret, what caused this pH to be an issue? The respiratory system. Did the other system fix it? It sure did. So how would you interpret this? I would call this a fully compensated respiratory acidosis. Fully compensated respiratory acidosis. If the pH was, say, 7.34, still technically not normal, it's on the acid side of normal, then I would say that would be partially compensated. But now that it's in normal range, it is a fully compensated respiratory acidosis.
What I'm not getting is, what if that used to be alkalotic before they compensated? Then
What used to be alkaline?
the pH. So
The nice thing about the body, it will not overcompensate. It will not overcompensate. So the body's going to do whatever it can. Again, when these things are abnormal, and again, in this case, this was the problem, the other system's going to do whatever it can to make the pH what? Normal, but without overcompensating.
right,
So it's trying, honestly, it's trying to drive the pH to 7.40.
right,
And then it's happy.
yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, how do we know that the pH didn't start out alkalotic in the first place?
Because if it was, then it would have been a metabolic issue. And again, the body won't overcompensate. Okay, so if it was originally something alkalotic, then that would have been a bicarbonate issue, and it would have never taken the pH on the other side of normal.
So if it starts out
It would have been
alkalotic-
741.
Okay, so if it starts out alkalotic, it wouldn't take it below 7.4?
Correct. Or if it started out acidotic, it won't take it across that edge.
Okay.
We're never gonna be in the middle, right? 742 interpreted compensation, right?
Yep. And I got some examples. We'll do that in a minute. Can't start with that, because then everybody's head explodes.
It already has.
Thank you, and it's already there, I know. All right, let's look at another one. So in this example, pH is 744, CO2 is 49, bicarb is 43. Again, you interpret 744 and call that normal, and move on. Don't start to adding anything yet, because you don't know if you have to. CO2 is 49, that's an acid. Bicarb is 43, alkalosis. Now I know when I see that I have to go back and look at the pH and look even closer at the pH. It's normal, but which side of normal is it? It's on the alkalosis or alkalotic side of normal. And so that's why I write that little alkalosis next to the word normal. Which system originally caused the alkalosis? The metabolic system. So the other system attempted to compensate, which it did, and now the pH is normal. We call that what? Fully compensated. So my interpretation here would be it's a fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. How many blood gases you're going to look at before you actually test?
Too many.
A bunch. And then then after you test, how many blood gases you're going to look at? Tons. Every single day.
Not enough by the time for this test.
All right, get rid of those. All right, next one. pH is 7.24, CO2 67, bicarb is 23. So pH is 7.24. Acid. CO2 is 67. Acid. Bicarb is 23. How would you interpret this?
Just a respiratory acidosis.
Any compensation?
No.
No. No compensation. This is a respiratory acidosis. Some people may say uncompensated respiratory acidosis, which is fine. If some people like to say that, but if you tell me it's a respiratory acidosis, I'm going to make the assumption you mean no compensation, because if there was compensation, you would have said it. Okay? But the reason I mention this is sometimes respiratory therapists that like to quiz you guys for seeing if you can interpret a blood gas, and you say respiratory acidosis, they say, yeah, but what about compensation? Okay? Maybe they want to hear the word uncompensated respiratory acidosis, and that's fine. That's fine. But like I said, if you tell me, if we're in the hospital and you tell me the patient has a respiratory acidosis, I'm going to make the assumption you mean there's no compensation, because if there was, you would have said something about it.
So it's only uncompensated if the pH is, well,
Has this thing done anything to compensate? No. And where would it have to be considered being compensated? It would have to be higher than 26. The second that hits 27, Now I'm gonna say, oh, that's causing an alkalosis, and now we're a partially compensated respiratory acidosis, until the pH gets up into the normal range. That's full.
The body will do that. The body will make the
It will
patient hyperventilate
Yes,
or
it will try.
hyperventilate.
It will try.
But there's nothing that we can add and say, you know, it's not happening, you're not hyperventilated, hyperventilate now to help, or?
So that's a good question. So regarding compensation, the body will do whatever it is physically capable of to try to normalize that pH. Now there's some folks that are just too sick, or that particular system is too deficient that it can't compensate. And of course, that's where we're gonna intervene and not let things go to an extreme, to try to correct.
Would you coach like breathing to help, or no?
That's how the body's gonna respond, but if we can fix the metabolic problem, then the breathing will slow down. And that's sometimes where people really have a hard time grasping, is the patient, just visually looking at them, you can see how hard they're working to breathe. And you think that's gotta be a respiratory issue, what the hell's going on with them? And really it's a metabolic problem, and that's just how the body's attempting to compensate. Or the other end of the spectrum, the patient's not ventilating very much at all, trying to bring up their CO2 to bring down the pH from a metabolic alkalotic situation. So yeah, there's things we'll do to intervene, but meanwhile, this is how the patient is presenting to us right now. You know, in certain extremes, I don't want to see the patient having a pH of 7.1 something. We don't have time to wait on the body to try to correct it. We will intervene and we will do what we need to do to try to fix that. There's even some situations, we try not to, but there's some situations if the pH is extremely acidotic, we may give them bicarbonate to try to bring that pH up. But, you know, those are things we'll get into in time. Right now, just talking about how the body's attempting to respond. Just had to throw one of these in here to make sure you didn't forget what we learned in the beginning. You get hung up on compensation, then you forget the regular stuff, right? All right, what about this one? pH is 7.29, acid. The CO2 is 31, less than normal, alkalosis. Bicarb is 20. Acidosis. So which system is causing the acidotic pH? Metabolic system. Is the other system attempting to compensate? Okay, is the pH normal?
No.
So we can't say fully compensated, but we sure as heck can say partially compensated. Again, metabolic acidosis. So far, so good. Need some more? Okay, need some more? And absolutely we'll need more. So when you take this test, I expect to have these words written right next to those blood gases just so you can visually see it.
So we going lower would be it compensating?
So which one's going lower?
But yeah.
Yes, because it's a metabolic problem. The other system, the respiratory
Okay.
system, is trying to compensate.
Okay.
I should have, again, I didn't want to make it too confusing yet. I know I'll do that on the third one, where I'll give you some of these, and then I'll make it a mixed, where both systems cause the problem, acidosis or alkalosis. Okay?
That would be an error?
No, because you can have mixed, you can have both systems contributing and causing the same problem.
So which one would be an error?
We haven't had one yet.
Okay.
Again, I don't think I put any errors today. I'll give you an errors for the next one we do. The occasional error, just to keep you honest. All right, let's look at a few more. All right, so this particular one, all right, pH is 7.43, the CO2 is 72, the bicarb, if you follow it down there toward the bottom, is 47.8. And yes, there's some other information here, but again, just to get used to seeing multiple numbers on a blood gas report, but muddle through some of the stuff that we're not asking just yet and focus on what you need to know to interpret. So pH is 7.43, you would call that I would call that normal, right? I'm not gonna overanalyze it unless I have to. CO2 is 72. That's an acidosis. The bicarb was 47.8. That's a touch high, wouldn't you say? That's very high. That's an alkalosis. So I have one system saying alkalosis, one system saying acidosis, and a pH that's normal. But which side of normal is it? Alkalosis. And so if I interpret what's causing this alkalosis pH, or originally causes alkalosis pH, it's the metabolic system. So here's a fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. I don't think I had. No, I didn't have those types. So just make sure you're jot down for this one, fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. But don't forget that word, fully compensated. Why is it fully compensated? The pH is in normal limits, is in normal parameters, but it's on the higher side of those normal limits.
So you said with the pH, if it's like under 7.40 is when it's on the acid side?
Would be on the acidotic side. So, I'm glad you asked that. So, just taking this and manipulating it just ever so slightly. Let's say all the numbers are the same, but now I made the pH 7.36. Okay? Normal, but on the acid side of normal. CO2 is still saying acid. Bicarb is still saying alkalotic. How would you interpret that if the pH was 7.36? Fully compensated respiratory acidosis. So that just simply by looking at the pH. Okay?
But this one was a metabolic acidosis?
Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. And I probably have some like I just written up here in just a second. All right, next one. Here the pH is 721. CO2 is 72. Bicarb is 28.8. So the pH, 721, I call that an acidosis. CO2 is 72. Acidosis. And the bicarb is 28.8. Alkalosis. Again, not by much, but it's still higher than normal. Alkalosis. So how would you interpret this one? Partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Again, definitely respiratory acidosis. And is the other system attempting to compensate? Yes. Is the pH normal? Not yet. That's why it's partially compensated. A partially compensated respiratory acidosis.
So you know if the other system's compensating if it's not within normal?
Correct. Not within normal.
So it's leaning towards whichever side the pH is on.
I said that again, I'm sorry.
So it's leaning based on the pH.
Yep.
Whether it's okay.
Right. Again, if I didn't show you the number 721, but I said the pH is acidotic, well, which system's causing the acidosis? It's the respiratory system. So don't forget, because if anything, that's the easiest part to see right now. It is a respiratory acidosis. And I'm not saying just know it just well enough. No, know it like the back of your hand, like you need to know it. But remember, my test is multiple choice. Am I going to give you some metabolic alkalosis or respiratory alkalosis answer options? I could. But don't forget the obvious. This one, so I'm looking at respiratory acidosis. Okay, number one, that's going to eliminate at least half the answers probably, because I'll have some saying alkalosis or this or that. Respiratory metabolic. Find the one that's respiratory acidosis, and then see. Okay, because I know I'm going to have some that say fully compensated or uncompensated or partially compensated, like this one is.
Well, I guess I'm confused because I don't understand why it couldn't be an alkalosis then. Because it's.
Is that an alkalosis?
Oh shit. Okay.
That's okay. No, it's fine.
Oh my god.
You gotta put that on your video.
And it's one of those things, you do have to slow it down. You do have to slow it down. I did give a test, this is not in your future or anything like that, but I did give a test one time where it was 25 ABGs. And boom, 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 boom. And now some people would say, yeah, dude, give me that. Go ahead. I'm comfortable with it right now. But after
Over the A&P
make a
test?
note. Okay, I'm gonna
Replace the A&P test with that.
But I had a student tell me probably question 12, John, this is like a final exam, everything starting to jumble, right? So I say, jot down your normals, that way you can at least reset your brain for a second to go, okay, let me forget this, let me focus on what's in front of me and not get overwhelmed by just the sheer volume of numbers that are appearing back to back to back to back to back. Now I know this upcoming test is not going to be all blood gases, but there'll be a blood gas, some other question, blood gas, another question. So you'll still have plenty of blood gases, but maybe they'll be spaced out a little bit by some other challenging questions that drive you crazy before you get back into the blood gases, right? But again, looking at these, especially in repetition like we're doing, it's easy to start, seeing something that's not there or getting them a little bit backwards. But be careful. Again, just going back, yeah, that pH is not alkalotic, so there's no reason for us to even mention alkalosis other than, yeah, that's why this system is trying to compensate, because it's trying to take the pH the other direction. All right, next question. All right, this one, the pH is 7.45, the CO2 is 65, the bicarb is 45.2. Again, if I'm going to interpret pH is 7.45, what do I call that? Normal and nothing else. CO2 is 65, higher than normal, which would cause an acidosis. The bicarb, which is 45.2, which would cause an alkalosis. Now I'll go back and look at the pH. Which side of normal is it? It's on the alkalotic side of normal, so that's why I'm going to write alkalosis here next to it. And so I simply ask myself, all right, which system originally caused the alkalosis? The metabolic system did. Is the other system trying to fix that bad pH? It's attempting. And oh, as a matter of fact, check, it did, right? So how would you interpret this one? Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis. Fully compensated metabolic alkalosis.
Your little rag and spray's working real good this week.
Trying to get there.
No marks left behind.
I don't know what all this crap is. That's not for me.
You would never.
I don't know.
Does anyone else use this classroom during
They
the
do.
semester?
They do. I don't think so much this semester, but I know there's others that have been in here. I know because the instructor will forget to turn the station off. So I look and see what they've been doing. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry.
On camera.
That was just a joke. All right. So we said fully compensated metabolic alkalosis for this one. Next one, pH is 7.36. CO2 is 60. Bicarb is 33.9. Forget about that damn camera. All right. I like my language too. All right. So pH is 7.36. So that is normal. CO2 is 60.
Acidosis.
That's causing an acidosis, and the bicarb 33.9
Alkalosis.
causing an alkalosis. Now, since I have both systems saying one thing, pH is normal, but which side of normal is it?
Acid.
It's the acid side of normal. So which system is causing the acidosis? The respiratory system. The other systems fixed it, right? Because the pH is now normal. So how would I interpret this? Fully compensated respiratory acidosis. Fully compensated respiratory acidosis. Ooh. Oh, we're gonna head. Okay, everybody okay with that one? Fully compensated respiratory acidosis.
You got this, Chad.
All right, next question.
Let me have an aneurysm before we leave.
Well, if we get your blood gas, we'll definitely work to interpret it. All right, pH 6.97. That's called dead. That's called not good, but yes, I agree, it is an acidosis. CO2 is 67. Acidosis. Bicarb is 15.4. And so your interpretation here would be what? Partially compensated?
Not even trying.
Not even trying. So here's your combined or mixed acidosis. Both systems saying acid. No wonder the pH is so low. You have both systems messing up this poor patient. Working against our poor patient here.
Start breathing, man.
That would be a start.
So it would be combined.
Combined acidosis. Combined or mixed acidosis, depending on which word you prefer.
So that's like
Which
normal
word?
and possible, which is not possible, is for the first one to be alkalosis and then both saying acid. That would be
Okay,
our.
to make it an error, right? To make it an error,
I think they go by the pH.
I said,
Okay.
that's really, really high.
Okay.
But just to make a point, if I said this, the pH was 7.97, that makes it an alkalosis, and then you have two systems saying acid, acid, and then alkalotic pH. Couldn't happen. Couldn't happen. Or a pH that is in normal limits, and both systems saying acid. Again, another example. Couldn't happen. There's your error. There's your error. But I know sometimes people, especially, and again, I know today's the first day we've talked about compensation. Sometimes the compensation gets you messed up, and you start thinking it's an error, and John's trying to be tricky here. No, it was just partially compensated or fully compensated, whatever.
So this one's not compensated because both other systems are acidic?
Both systems are causing the same thing to happen to the pH, acid. There's no mystery third system that suddenly appears to try to fix it, right? Again, you have two systems that are both messing up, and that's what's causing that pH to be abnormal. All right, so good catch on that one. This is a combined or a mixed acidosis. All right, and this one, pH is 7.49. That would be a alkalosis. A CO2 that is 45, normal, and a bicarb that is 34.3.
Alkalosis.
So how would you interpret this one?
I have a question on this one. So since the CO2 is 45, which is on the edge, would you
Okay.
say normal, but then would you say it's trying to compensate?
Not yet. Not yet.
No one says
Because
45.
Then it is. Right? The question was, boy, that's right on the edge. Yes, it's normal, but the second it hits 46, then wouldn't it try to be fixing this? It would, but I can't say it's fixing it yet. Not until this now goes to 46. If this number was 46 and we said, okay, that would represent an acidosis, then we could say partially, not by much, but partially compensated metabolic alkalosis. But because it's normal, I can't say anything about compensation yet. Even though, yes, you're right. It is right there on the edge. It's right there on the border. So again, this one was a metabolic alkalosis, no compensation whatsoever. All right, what about 7.24? Acidosis. CO2 70. Acidosis. Bicarb is 30. Alkalosis. So what's the original problem with this blood gas? It's a respiratory acidosis. Is the other system attempting to fix? It is, it's trying. Is the pH been normalized yet? No, so it hasn't finished doing what it's attempting to do. So this would be interpreted as a partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Yes, partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Okay. Aren't you glad I have no more surprises when it comes to interpretation? Like I said, after today, there's nothing new to add, right? There's nothing new to add other than looking at them over. And again, all these numbers can change, of course. And just wait until we can start throwing in what some of this other stuff is. You know, not trying to jump ahead yet, but there'll be other stuff to look at later. But this is the hardest part. And the interpretation part is the hardest part. The acid-base balance is the hardest part.
I have that on recording.
is the hardest part. All right, what about this? 7.17 is the pH. Acid. Okay, this is one of those plug acids. It drives me crazy. It doesn't have to tell me that's elevated. I get it, right?
I like that.
That will not appear on the test.
Damn it.
All right, because let me just be fair. So, get me arrows for this.
Yeah, that's
Not this one?
Sulfur with bicarb.
That's an error.
It's a bicarb.
Yeah. So anyway, so pH is acid, CO2 is 83, acid, bicarb is 30.6, alkalosis, so you would interpret this one as a partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Are we okay with that one? All right, next one, pH is 7.35. Normal. CO2 is 65. Apparently it's elevated. That's the arrows.
I don't know.
Acid.
It's hard to tell.
Bicarb is 36.1. Alkalosis. So how would you interpret this? Oh, I'm sorry. Normal, but which side of normal is it? Acid. So yes, so it's the respiratory system causing the original acidosis. But again, regarding compensation, fully compensated respiratory acidosis here. Fully compensated respiratory acidosis. Questions? Is that my last one? Okay, I do have some questions for you guys too, so everybody okay with this?
Oh my god.
Shocker. Oh, good. Let's see how many questions I asked. Holy cow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. All right, so a few more to go. Then I'll let your brain be free for a minute. All right, so these obviously you don't have copies of. If you want to snap a picture of it, you're more than welcome to as we go through these. But here's the multiple choice version of blood gas interpretation. All right, so
Oh my god.
pH 7.36, CO2 64. Oh, sure. That's better. All right, pH 736, CO2 is 64, bicarb is 37. Don't blurt it out. Let everybody have a chance to kind of process for a second. And you can see the answer options available to you. Okay, this will be just like it is on the test. I wish my Scantron actually went out to a level of F, but it doesn't. But it does give me up to E, so 5 available multiple choice answers. So just so you know, when I ask this question on the test, I will have 5 available answers, which suddenly, if it comes into a random guess, now lessens your odds of guessing the right answer, since it's no longer just 4 available answers. And trust me, if my Scantron went out to F, I would give you 6 available answers, but I'm limited. All right, so pH, normal. CO2, high, which is an acid. Bicarb, high, which is an alkalosis. pH is normal, but which side of normal is it? Acid side of normal. So if this is normal but acid, this is saying acid, but this is saying alkalosis, which system caused the original acidosis to begin with? The respiratory system. So I'm not saying know it just well enough to do this, but right now I determine, okay, respiratory acidosis. All right? All right, it's got to be one of those. If I didn't know anything else, right? Or did I miss one? That's alkalosis. All right? So it has to be something respiratory acidosis. How about the pH? It's normal. Does that mean partially or fully compensated? Fully compensated. So B for this one. Right? B for this one. And like I said, don't know it just well enough to be able to guess the right answer. Still know it like the back of your hand, because that's how you're going to be expected to know it and understand it when you're at the bedside. Because guess what? Once we can get this, the next step is, okay, now that you know what the issue is, what are you going to do to fix it? And if you think it's something over here, then your strategy to fix it's going to be completely wrong. And that's when bad things could happen to our poor patient. All right, so this one was B. Everybody okay with this one? Fully compensated with respiratory acidosis. Next question. Now the pH is 7.24. The CO2 is 32. The bicarb is 16. So don't blurt it out. Let everybody have a chance to look at it. 7.24. The CO2 is 32. The bicarb is 16. So the pH is what? The pH is acidotic. Okay, the pH is acidotic. The CO2 is low, which would cause an alkalosis. The bicarb is low, which would cause a acidosis. So you have this system saying alkalosis, this system saying acidosis, and a pH that is acidotic. So right now I know, if nothing else, I know it's a metabolic acidosis, but is the CO2 trying to compensate? It is. Is it fully or partial? So this is a partially compensated situation. And what's the answer? Partially compensated? So C, partially compensated metabolic acidosis, and that's correct. This is C. That's it for that one.
All right, I'm gonna go B for the next one.
All right, everybody okay with this one? I like 27 points. All right, so here the pH is 7.51. High. CO2 is 50, which is high. Bicarb 41, which is high. So this pH means alkalosis. That high CO2 means acidosis, and the high bicarb, alkalosis. So that's the cause. Partially compensated metabolic alkalosis. Is that an answer? C. All right, so that's this one's C. Ah, it wasn't D. All right, so partially compensated metabolic alkalosis. E. Everybody okay with this one? I got more. All right, pH 7.39. The CO2 is 28. The bicarb is 18. So the pH is 7.39. That means normal. Right? Normal. Not little, nothing. It's normal. CO2 is 28. That's low, which would cause an alkalosis. The bicarb is 18. That's low, which would cause a acidosis. Now you can look back at the pH and you can say, yes, it's normal, but it is on the acid side of normal. And which one caused the acid? The bicarb. So because this is normal, we know it's going to be fully compensated. So fully compensated, what do we say? Metabolic acidosis. And which answer was that one? D. Fully compensated metabolic acidosis. Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Is it the last one? I don't know. I'm just clicking buttons. I'm just clicking buttons until it stops. All right. Next one, pH 7.45, CO2 30, bicarb 19. All right, so 7.45, 30, and 19. pH is normal. CO2 is 30. That's an alkalosis, and the bicarb is 19. Acidosis. Now I look back at my pH. Yes, it's normal, but which side of normal? Alkalotic side. And which system was causing the alkalosis? The respiratory system. So fully compensated respiratory alkalosis. Which one was that? E, fully compensated respiratory alkalosis. Yes, no, maybe? Okay. Brain totally fried? Yeah. Okay. That means another question, right? pH 7.31, CO2 is 57, bicarb 28. So pH is 731, that means acidosis. CO2 is 57, which means acidosis. And the bicarb is 28, alkalosis. So your interpretation here would be a partially compensated respiratory acidosis. So is that A? Partially compensated respiratory acidosis. I didn't give you two of the same right answer. All right, partially compensated respiratory acidosis.
If you do give us two right answers, we choose them both, that's double credit.
No. If I give you two right answers, that's my fault.
Yeah, so to pay for it, you gotta give them
Very much not.
So this one is A, partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Like I said, I'm clicking buttons till it stops. 7.47 is the pH. High? Yes? All right. CO2 is 28, which is low. Bicarb is 18, which is also low. So the pH is alkalotic. The CO2 is low, which is alkalotic. And the bicarb is low, which would cause an acidosis. So it's a partially compensated respiratory alkalosis. Partially compensated respiratory alkalosis. Which is a? Trust me, how many blood gases have you looked at today?
Too many.
Too many?
So are you?
Go ahead.
I'll ask later.
Okay. All right. So, which means when we test, be prepared to not get overwhelmed mentally with the sheer volume of blood gases and values that are there.
You're gonna have that many?
See why not? I see why not.
Answer one, different question, answer.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Now, I haven't made up the test yet, so I honestly don't know how many true blood gas interpretations you're going to have.
Please God.
But I would say there's probably at least 40% of that test probably would be blood gases if I had to pull out a number out of the air. If I had to guess, 40%. So not quite half the test, but a good chunk of the test. I'll know more before next week, because when's the test? Wednesday of next week? I'll know, obviously, before that time. I'll be able to give you a little bit better info come Monday.
Yeah, it's next week. A lot of days, like, I'll know before then, obviously.
Yeah. Day of the test, I'll let you know. Another one. All right. pH 739. CO2 is 58. Bicarb is 36. So pH 739, normal. CO2 is 58. That's going to cause an acid, and bicarb is 36. Would cause an alkalosis. So respiratory saying acid, metabolic saying alkalosis, a pH that's normal, but which side of normal is it? On the acid side of normal. So here's your fully compensated respiratory acidosis. Fully compensated respiratory acidosis.
That's got to be it.
Oh my god.
I was hoping there was at least two more.
No way.
At least.
At least. So, I'm happy to say that with compensation, what we talked about here, I have nothing new to add other than here's some more blood gases to interpret and make sure I don't trip you up or trick you. Some are going to be uncompensated. Some could be an error, which I know you can't wait until that moment, all right? And then some are going to be compensated, either partially or fully compensated.
So what you're saying is next week you're just gonna do a bunch more hammering.
Drilling it in left and right. I will also post a practice worksheet or two of blood gas interpretations that you can sit back and do at your leisure. I'm sorry?
Chad would appreciate that.
Okay. Chad will provide the key. So I will post a key with it too, but separate.
I'm like, what did Chad say?
Yeah, just throwing you under the bus, Chad. So I will post some practice worksheets for you guys to look at, and I'll post a answer key separate. Give yourself a chance to, on the test version, practice with them, and then see the key version. I'm sorry, Faith. Yep. So the only thing I have left to add is just for us more practice with the blood gases. Any questions before I let you guys run? All right, so let me announce this. So Wednesday, first thing Wednesday, what do you have going on? Test, fundamentals test. Now, something came up last minute, and I think it actually works out to our advantage. I have a meeting in the afternoon after our class, during our normal meeting time. So, Wednesday, you will have your test, the fundamentals test first thing. We will not meet for the cardiopulmonary A&P class this Wednesday, okay? I am posting those worksheets for you to practice with. It's the same stuff we would have been doing in here anyways, except you're not having my smiling face and witty personality to try to make it fun. You know how hard this is when it comes to blood gases. So I will have that for you, okay? That will be Wednesday. Friday, what type of lab is Friday? Open lab, which means Desmond and I will both be here from approximately 9:30 to 12:30 for anybody who wants to stop in and look at anything during that time period. 9:30 to 12:30, we both will be there. Now Desmond probably is going to leave before I am, but we both will be there around that time. Now that does not mean show up at 12:29 and expect to really get anything out of it other than thanks for coming, let's go. So don't wait until 12:15 if you want to do something in there. Now, anything that we've done in the past, any equipment, intubation, the nebulizers, the MDIs, I already forgot what else we did, humidifiers, anything else we've looked at or done before, you're welcome to ask questions about. We can pull out that stuff, let you guys look at it. Plus, I'm letting you know, since I'm going to be there, if there's any blood gas questions that you want to hit me with on Friday, I'll be there. You're more than welcome to ask me, okay? Like I said, I will post this afternoon some practice blood gas questions for you to look at, which I will say will include just the regular stuff we've been looking at the first day, stuff that includes compensation, partially fully, and the occasional error. Like I said, I'll provide the key so you can look at that and make sure you have all the right answers. Like I said, Friday, if you're out here for lab, by all means, we'll definitely let you guys practice with anything that you've looked at before, but I also want to offer, since I'm not going to be able to be here for Wednesday's class, that I'll be out here if there's blood gas questions you want to ask and kind of have a little more one-on-one or maybe small group on-one time with me. So that's this Friday. But like I said, from what time? 9:30 to 12:30. So if you want to show up at any time in between there, but I would rather say, why don't you get here earlier as opposed to later to get